It's time for your farm and ranch news, and today this program is being produced from the Montana Farm Bureau Convention going on in Billings. Now, folks throughout the region, whether you're Farm Bureau members, stock growers, or anything else, are pretty concerned about the cattle markets right now. And with that, we also have to talk about feed. With me, I do have John Anderson. Now, you're an economist with the American Farm Bureau Federation. How important is watching that feed for the cattle producers?
Well, it's very important. Really, what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 months, since about midsummer, is that developments in the livestock market have largely been driven by what's gone on in the grain market. We've seen considerable tightening of grain stocks, considerable reduction in our expected corn production, and as corn prices have been driven higher because of that, that's had a pretty direct impact not only on cattle prices, particularly feeder cattle prices, but also cost of production for producers in all of our livestock segments.
All right, well, John, it's a time of year where most folks around here have already done ship their cattle. If not, they're right around the corner with doing that. But we're always curious as to what the markets are going to do in the future. Now, do you have any projections going out to the next 3 months to the next year of what the cattle markets might do?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. Again, that's related to what's going on in the corn market. But in general, we are looking at a fairly favorable situation in our livestock market. Meat production in general is at a fairly low level. We're seeing some recovery in the general economy. That tends to be a positive factor for meat demand. We're seeing very strong exports. And as we look ahead, I think we'll continue to see that grow. So if you put all that together, there's quite a bit of support for livestock prices. And I think if you look at what futures markets are doing, for instance, there is an expectation that we'll continue to see a fairly modest upward trend in prices. What we've got to watch, though, is what's going on the cost side. I think prices will be pretty good, but costs could be creeping up on us, and we need to watch that.
All right, thank you so much again, John Anderson. He is an economist with the American Farm Bureau Federation. We're talking with John Anderson, talking about what's going on with the cattle markets, and we can't ignore that on the supply side, of course, the U.S. cattle herd is seeing small numbers that it hasn't seen for quite some time. When do you expect that will start growing again?
I think it'll probably be 2012 before we see much growth. I think as we look forward to next year, we're going to continue to see a very uncertain cost of production situation. Again, I think we'll see pretty good prices, but I think the uncertainty on the cost side will keep a lot of people from expanding very much. So I look for the incentive to be there maybe by 2012 to really get some expansion underway. And we really need to see that. It's nice to have high prices, but we need to see high prices with growing production to really know we've got a healthy industry there.
Absolutely. And John, now you and I were talking about it, but when we're talking about the cattle markets, we have to look at the entire livestock sector and what's going on with supply on that side. What are we seeing with poultry and with pork and how that relates to cattle?
Well, those industries are going through a lot of the same things that the cattle industry is going through. They're dealing with higher cost of production. I think we were expecting maybe a month or two ago that we would see some increase in pork production. I think those plans have changed as we've gotten this increase in feed prices, and that industry is, if not back into a contraction mode, certainly not expanding anymore, holding steady, and the incentive will be there for that to continue through 2011. The poultry industry was well into an expansion phase a couple of months ago, and that's probably continuing to some degree. Chicken is a low-priced protein item, so they can deal with these higher prices, but it will cut back their production some as well. I think we're looking at very slow growth in poultry production for 2011.
All right, thank you so much again. That is John Anderson. He is a livestock economist here for the American Farm Bureau Federation. With your farm and ranch news, I'm Haylie Shipp.